Right. Nice. Okay, let me post this. There. Good, 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 good. Off stream, I changed a couple things. Excuse me. Between last time and now, um, if I review the post that I did, yeah, I added back some mid-roll ads, so that there's no pre-roll ads. So like the amount of ads that are airing on my stream are basically the same. But I've tried to shuffle them around so that Twitch will actually give me a better payout for any ad revenue. So hopefully, I won't even necessarily need subscriptions if I get enough people watching the stream. Well, you get the idea. I'm trying to take things one step at a time in building up my Twitch channel. Even though discoverability is much better on YouTube, I really don't like doing the YouTube editing shit. You know, trying to keep it to like one video a week so that I don't get trapped in the vortex of just editing videos day in and day out. You know, because I've been in that before. Really, really didn't like it. So was not not all it cracked up to be, that's for sure. Anyways, welcome back to the stream. I had an idea of what to do this stream going forward. There was a thing I wanted to do specifically with Retro Rewind, the custom track pack. And I will go into further detail when okay. Please try relaunching from Homebrew channel. Okay. Don't know what that's about. Let's try one more time. If it gives me that error again, then I will launch it from Homebrew. Please wait. Okay, there we go. I don't know what happened that time. Probably some error, some random error. It's been known to happen. Okay. Let's get in there. Let's go. I'll prepare a link right away too. There we go. Okay. Wiimote kind of blinking off and back on. The US monkeys. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna get a little lead up to this. So one of the things that I did, I played a lot offline, but oh, don't want to check that actually. I think I have to go into my profile first. I remember when I was playing this game as a kid, I wanted to 100% complete it, which means like get gold on all of the cups, get like a 3-star ranking, and I did do that. If I go to my profile, it should show here. Yeah, overall ranking 3 stars. I've gotten 3 stars on every cup, but that's for vanilla Mario Kart. What I actually wanted to do was run the gauntlet. Get 3 stars on every Grand Prix Cup in Retro Rewind. If that's even possible. I am not doing 500 or 200 cc. I am doing 150 cc regular old stuff type shit. Also, I don't remember these being like actually displaying the custom characters. It might be, I don't know if it does that on the Wi-Fi menu. Regardless, it does do it here. So let's select Mario to start. Mock bike, good. Okay, and we're gonna see. Let's go to one that's like relatively tame. We're gonna start with one of the SNES cups. We're gonna do this one. They do all have ranks next to them, so I'm assuming this works. Unless something happens that indicates that the game would crash, I'm gonna assume that I can run through these cups in Grand Prix mode, and the sort of victory cutscene at the end will play out appropriately, and it'll give me a little ranking. So I'm gonna start with this. It's gonna be 150cc, and I'll restart. If things go wrong, I will restart to get 3 stars on that cup. And I do intend to grind each one potentially until I get 3 stars. We're gonna see how this goes. And I don't know if I want to do it like back to back to back to back, or if I want to like alternate, do one stream with the offline Grand Prix and then another stream with the you know, maybe online races, to try to get a nice balance of the pace. Okay, banana. And of course, this track is very basic. First track in the SNES Mushroom Cup, or the Mario Kart thing. But this can also, I intend for this also to be a way for me to learn about a lot of the tracks in this pack. You know, I'm pretty confident in my racing abilities as it is. You know, but always helps to, you know the tracks a little bit better. And usually, even on the non-front-running tracks, front-running is a viable method of racing in single-player mode. You know? Unless you're racing against the intense CPUs, which in 150cc Grand Prix mode, you wouldn't be, so. Oh, there's the shock. Looks like Heracross is the only one that didn't get shocked because they used the shock. There's just hella items flying. That's unfortunate. But I'm gonna get first all the same. I think actually, like, I don't remember 100% how a 3 stars rating works, but I think it does have to do on some level with how many items you get hit by. At least for the vanilla game. I know that it had that how many times you fall off the track matters, even if you have a ginormous lead and finish. I think actually, what is it? It's how many items you use, how many items you get hit by, are both factors. So that first race might already not bode well. Let's pull up the text file. Oh, the CPUs are really, really going at it here. They might be going actual speed, which is interesting. Also, my compliments to the chef on these variants of the early SNES tracks. They're really good. You know, even the super simple designs can be very fun to play. You give it just a little bit of grading and depth and texture, and it does a lot for the track. Okay. Seems like they don't take the inside line there, so that could be a little advantage that I have. I didn't realize that I had a mushroom. I could have dodged that blue shell. Oh well. Still gonna get first. Nice. Okay. Well, make sure the text file is up. Good, good. Ghost Valley 1. Oh boy. Okay, I suppose now is as good a time as any. Oh, I remember this track. To start on some of the things that I really wanted to talk about. And I go back and forth between whether I want to write them down or not. I guess it depends on like what kind of mood I'm in on a given day, in a given stretch of time, you know, week, month, whatever. But I wrote down just some like reminders of the things I'd be interested in. I was watching a video yesterday about the game No, I'm Not a Human. You know, one of these games where the central theme is of paranoia, distrust, xenophobia, and having to identify, oh, there's an imposter that is posing as a human but is not human. You know, and like there's some life-threatening peril that you could be subject to if you do not correctly identify such people. It's a really good game. Manly Badass Hero and Markiplier have both played it, and I could suggest no better place to start if you want to see the game, or even just, you know, you could buy it and play it for yourself. I'm sure that'd be great too. Nonetheless, the game has been greatly expanded upon since the first time I watched anything about it or heard anything about it. And so there was a video that I saw that was like, oh yeah, here's the lore of every character in this game. And there were a bunch of characters that I hadn't seen. And some that I was familiar with that I'd be like, okay, well, might be a good opportunity to learn. And so I watched that video, and unfortunately the video actually ended up kind of being like long form content slop. You know, the analysis wasn't very good in that video. I've seen like a million different takes on it, but this one just didn't strike me as particularly well thought or like analytically sound, I guess. But during that video, the reason I bring it up, sorry, I've spent longer on that than I wanted to. During that video, I realized something that did stick out to me. Because No, I'm Not Human focuses on elements of spirituality. Because it deals with paranoia, irrationality, and sort of like mass psychosis in apocalyptic scenario. Obviously, there's going to be connections to religion, the politics of religion, and the religious frameworks and spiritual identity that people fall back on when they are in times of uncertainty. What's up, Kayla the Furry? Welcome back. And so, like, seeing that stuff in No, I'm Not a Human, you know, like with the nun and with the horoscope girl and that sort of stuff, it actually made me realize that, oh shit, a lot of the spirituality is actually like gone. Like, people don't do that anymore. Particularly, I was thinking with the like astrology girl. There's a character in No, I'm Not a Human who is a girl who's obsessed with like astrology and horoscopes and that sort of shit and like essentialism. And I was reminded how like, oh, haha, you know, astrology and horoscopes are sort of an esotericist element of sort of fascist currents of thought, right? Like basically, fascism is horoscopes for guys, and horoscopes and like astrology is fascism for women, right? And then I realized something. You don't hear anything about that anymore. Like, it has been actually so long since anybody gave a shit about horoscopes or you know, what's the term? Astrology, right? Like, oh, haha, you're such a Capricorn, right? Like, I haven't heard about any of that in so long. And I actually think that that substantiates the analysis that a lot of those things, that like 20th century New Age spiritualism inherently leans fascist, right? Because again, it's grounded in esotericism, essentialism, and the sort of irrational umbrella of an authority that you can't deviate from. Oh, okay, so this does work. Cool. 3 stars, please. B? That's crazy. How does this ranking system work? Adding a bonus for players on Wii Wheel and automatic. I'm looking up the system for ranking. As many mini turbos hitting as many CPUs as possible. I see. Let me try that again. Let me try that again with that in mind. I'm going to try to spam items. But yeah, like watching this video and this video about the game being so heavy on the elements of spirituality, you know, horoscopes, whatever else, made me realize how little those things are talked about anymore in real life, you know? Rank B. Let's try it. I'm going to try to ameliorate that rank there. And again, I think it lends credence to the analysis that these are component parts of esoteric fascism, because they kind of got, it seems like they kind of got folded into fascism over time, to like 21st century fascist ideology, right? Like with horoscopes and whatnot, this sort of New Age spiritualist types of, particularly women, this was marketed towards, it seemed like a lot of them fell into sort of the anti-vax types of conspiracies and stuff. What's up, 1v3? Welcome back. And that, like, thinking about those horoscopes and like how horoscopes really aren't present anymore in those kinds of in that kind of stuff. Like nobody really cares about horoscopes anymore. Like, I was also reminded of another like sort of New Age spiritualist thing that was very much a product of the 20th century, which is hippie culture, like hippies and stuff. That is no longer a part of the cultural lexicon, really, because a lot of the like hippies have been folded into fascism as well. They were folded in through the esotericist angle of like anti-vax type shit. What's up, Gotron? What the fuck? Dude, I'm getting dogged on this race. That's crazy. And that does, getting hit by items there, I think actually does matter. Okay. Yeah, it seems, it just kind of in retrospect, it seemed like a lot of that spirituality was engineered to make people sort of amenable to going down a certain esotericist, anti-empiricist, particularly pipeline, you know? where empirics only are relevant insofar as they serve a religious narrative, rather than your framework of analysis having to conform to the empirics of the world, right? Does that make sense? Like, if for a lot of these spiritualist and religious, or even just quasi-religious modes of thought, if empirics are inconvenient, you can like dismiss them out of hand. And sometimes, like, as much as some of these movements were like had a left-wing bent, like the hippies were known for being anti-war in the 60s and so forth, like it very much still was like the same kind of ideological current. Oh dang. All right, there's no way I'm getting 3 stars on that kind of run, so let's try again. I don't know. Well, I guess I do know to some extent. Like, I heard about, I think the most recently I heard about this was like a year or two after college. Family friend would like, and I talked in like DMs back and forth for a little bit. And they mentioned like horoscopes and astrology and stuff. I was like, that stuff is meaningless. Hmm. I'm taken to the video itself too, like the video about No, I'm Not Human. Really good game. Their analysis was very, very odd. In some ways, like it was very much like pop analysis, you know, like slop. For example, there was one of the characters that like that was new. That one of the reasons I clicked on the video was there were new characters that I hadn't seen in the game before. I was like, oh, you know, this could be interesting. One of the characters, one of those new characters, was the wife of a FEMA employee. In the game, there's a agency called FEMA, not to be confused with real life FEMA, which it like does actual shit. This FEMA effectively was like a secret police force that operated under the guise of like, oh yeah, haha, we're here to catch the visitors, this foreign threat from the, you know, crawls out of the ground and shit. And she said like, yeah, I wanted to be part of FEMA, but they don't take women, like they don't employ or hire or allow women to work for them. And I was like, oh wow, that actually very perfectly lays the groundwork for how FEMA is a fascist sort of arm of the state. It's like the perfect image of fascist statecraft. They're all about the sort of strength and like subsumption of identity under a group of, you know, guys with guns, whatever, and like sort of revolves around controlling the populace, controlling women especially. But this guy said, oh yeah, of course FEMA doesn't hire women. It's desperate times and they only need the most capable people. And I was like, you have to not have a brain to believe that, you know? Any conspiracy theories you do believe in? The one where there's a giant owning class that is all socially connected with each other and like manufactures ideology from the top down and keeps people fighting each other so that they don't realize that there's a giant club that they're not in oppressing them. Basically all the shit that was like verified by the Epstein files, and I can't do that. I have to work on my startup timing. That's the only conspiracy theory that really has any credence to me. If you want to put it in more humorous nomenclature, where many people will, like many very rabid anti-Semites, will espouse the Jewish question. I'm a big fan of the Jewish question, where the typical Jewish question conspiracy has it that there's a small like class of Jews that control the world or whatever. The Jewish question is that there is a small class of people that own and control all of the stuff, all of the artifices of government, media, etc., essentially the owning class, and they are interested in manufacturing the narrative that the Jews control all of that to distract people from the fact that there is an owning class that owns all of that has nothing to do with the Jews, and the Jews are just a convenient minority. No, 1v3, believe me, even though the Epstein files haven't resulted in anybody getting arrested in America, this is like a seismic shift in politics, right? Like, this really does matter. And the reason for that is it's sort of like, it has to do with one of the central critiques of liberal democracy. Liberal democracy is not actually democratic. It is pretend democracy. You have the artifice of elections, which are fair insofar as the candidates represented on the ballot, right? At least in most circumstances, and in a charitable set of circumstances. However, the undemocratic elements are sort of hidden from plain view at times, where you don't actually have any real say in the process of how candidates will be selected for the ballot. There exist these large private entities and machineries that are completely undemocratically controlled, that functionally dictate what is acceptable in politics before the point that you ever get to vote on anything, right? Not to mention the fact that the media, which is so important that historians and political scientists alike will uniformly recognize it as the fourth estate, has no measure of accountability to the public and is privately owned and controlled by the same set of interests that is in like pretty plain opposition to a lot of just regular ass good things, right? Understanding that liberal democracy is pretend democracy, it is not real democracy, it's also essential to come to the understanding that how liberal democracy maintains itself is that it is more or less good at pretending that it's democratic. You know? The importance of the Epstein files, the seismic shift in politics that I'm referring to, is that liberal democracies the world round have almost instantaneously lost the ability to pretend that they're democratic without acting in ways that are straightforwardly in the interest of a political base, right? Like with the people, as it were. And that's important for how people decide to behave politically, like what they decide to do, what they decide not to do, where their priorities lie. Previously, even though many people have been disillusioned with governments and liberal democracies for a long time, they weren't necessarily disillusioned with liberal democracy as a concept, or with the government as a concept in such a way that would implicate the ruling interests whose bread and butter is subverting democracy to put up the facade of democracy while they pillage the country for no recourse. You know? I don't know how I keep getting burnouts there. How has that shown so far, though? Easy. Mass discontent is arising. You might not have been here when I described this, but even on Twitter, the most Nazi-controlled website on the whole internet, aside from literal neo-Nazi forums on like 4chan or whatever, Twitter, at the release of the Epstein files, was in an uproar of entirely left-wing voices. You have any idea how unusual that is for Twitter to be entirely full of left-wing sentiment, and not just left-wing sentiment, but revolutionary left-wing sentiment. Yeah, people are booing the vice president, right? There's record levels of disapproval for the government, but then also there is a big vibe shift. The complacency that people previously felt is turning into angst and anger. And the most important part of all of this is that the right wing, these sets of ruling interests that are very obsequious to the capital class, if not literally just being the capital class themselves, are like, they are losing their grip. They have lost a lot of their grip on cultural power. They're not like in charge culturally anymore. Like literally woke 2 is back, and that's like the cultural hegemony now. And the Epstein files have contributed to that because it substantiated basically every critique anybody could have had about the right wing and about like the fakeness, the disingenuous nature of like liberal democracy. Yeah. There's an ad break running right now, I think. So that's what I mean when I say that there's like a giant vibe shift. There's like a really important vibe shift that has occurred and is currently occurring because of the Epstein files, right? Hell, I mean, you can even look at just how blatantly captured the news media is. News media that previously supposedly had a reputation of being left-wing, right? The only change I heard with all the recent actions is that at least 80% of voters would vote for Democrats now. That's the important thing this stream that I want to fixate on, is that people very often, they will confuse politics with news and elections. Oh, now the ad break is in progress. Oh boy. Okay. By the way, if you're subbed, you don't have to watch the ads. Ads, yeah, Mr. President, the ads have hit the stream. Okay, he's gonna get that. That's fine. Got him. There have been this weird mission powerful people have done where they turn politics into what team are you voting for in football. Yeah, that like unironically, the notion that politics is just what you see on the news coverage and what people vote for in elections, that is a psyop by the wealthy to distract you from things that are politically relevant but demand a more like expansive social scientific and humanities oriented lens of analysis. Also, getting Mario Karted by CPUs offline, that's rough. That's not going to be 3 stars. I know it isn't. And like, yes, that is one of the changes that people would like, that people would vote for the opposition party now. But that barely even registers as a seismic political shift, right? Not to me anyways, especially knowing that the Democrats are controlled opposition, not for the Republicans, but rather for the capital owning class that influences both political parties. That's part of the undemocratic elements at play, you know? I mean, shit, you had the Democrats caving on ICE funding and like mask policy and stuff like that, where they were like acting as though ICE was correct in asserting that it could just violate people's constitutional rights. ICE has been violating people's rights left, right, and center all over like the country, any city where they have been operating. And like the primary version of this being like a administrative warrant instead of getting a judicial warrant signed by a judge, which they legally are obligated to do. And the response from Democrats is, we don't think they should be able to do that. We don't think they should be allowed to do that, which is a capitulation already because they're not allowed to do that. The Democrats are participating in this narrative crafting where they are permitting these authoritarian abuses to happen by conceding that they are already legal. They're not. Literally, like, basically everything that the Trump administration has done in the advance of stripping our rights is, like, already against the fucking laws as laid out by the Constitution, and the Democrats just don't care. Again, it's that, like, competently administering the decline type shit. So that's why I think the elections aren't necessarily as relevant, except insofar as it reflects popular sentiment. And as undemocratic as this country is, and as any liberal democracy is, popular sentiment matters even in the most authoritarian dictatorships. In fact, it might even matter more in an authoritarian dictatorship, because without the popular approval, the government gets toppled, where liberal democracies can sort of tolerate there not being as much approval of the government at any given point. You know? So the real political impacts of this so far have been measurable in the, like, the social attention of the masses, basically. Things that you wouldn't get from the news coverage because the news is all complicit. Things that you wouldn't get just from looking at an election poll, right? Because that has very little to do with the broader culture that America is immersed in, and that many different societies will be immersed in with respect to reacting to and processing certain political and politically relevant events, you know? Like, think about Gamergate, right? Yes, there were instances where Gamergate got people elected, but it didn't need to directly be tied to politicians for this massive reactionary online movement of the right wing to be politically relevant. Like, it didn't need to directly elect, I don't know, Mike Lee or something. Like, there are a couple of politicians who have been elected on the back of, like, Gamergate talking points, but the fact that it, like, drives culture, the fact that it, like, had such an impact on the rhetoric people used and the way issues had to be framed, that's the real politics of the matter. Like, the mass psychology of the masses, you know? Yes, liberal democracies are extraordinarily beneficial to the rich because they function as a very, very convenient distraction. You know? And that is the song and dance of liberal democracy. Do you want this guy? Do you want this guy? Neglecting to highlight that both of them fundamentally are candidates that favor the wealthy. The mass psychology of the masses and dumbasses. Bars? But yeah, that's politics. And that's the seismic shift that I refer to when I'm talking about the Epstein files. Ooh, mushroom. I hope so. I had no idea how much how much the files had an impact on politics. Those things mentioned were only things I heard about. Yeah, and that's because that's what the news wants you to think politics is. Like I said, the idea that politics is just which candidate, like, is just elections and news events. The idea that those are the only things that compose politics is a psyop by the wealthy to distract you from the fact that there are so many different socioeconomic, sociocultural issues that are relevant to politics. We need some seismic shifts over here. Can I order some? Europe, to a certain extent, Europe is feeling these same shifts. where like I've actually seen this has like had more of a direct impact on European like electoral politics, where some politicians have stepped down and resigned over their connections to Jeffrey Epstein and his sort of network of pedophile influencers and whatnot. In fact, I was reading, I got back into reading the French newspaper a little while ago. You know, I've been trying to keep up with that, trying to brush up on my French. And a lot of French officials are embroiled in scandals where their involvement came to light with Jeffrey Epstein. And they've actually had to testify in depositions and stuff, which is more than we can say for America. But even so, I think that that analysis is correct, that Europe seems to be feeling these shocks less than the United States. And I think the reason for that, I think by and large, is because this is a scandal that largely implicates the capital class, right? Jeffrey Epstein was American. A lot of his friends would have been Americans. A lot of capital is concentrated in America. Think Wall Street, think Silicon Valley, you know? That's not to say Europe is poor. It's obviously not. But like, a lot more of these revelations will be directly connected to Americans and Israelis because they're just Americans in a fucking Star of David trench coat. But you know. Throw the screen shell back. You know, it's probably not going to hit anybody, but it's okay. Ooh, okay. There we go. Okay. Hello, Sparkling Image Car Wash. Welcome back. Love seeing the right cry their eyes out over some guy from Puerto Rico hosting the halftime show performance. Yeah, Bad Bunny. I honestly don't know what all that was about. Like, I assume it's just they are racist against Puerto Ricans because it's like, oh, you're not a real American because you can't vote in elections, federal elections. I don't know. Something like that. You're not a real American because you're actually Hispanic or something. Type shit. I think, you know what it is? I think it's because like I mentioned earlier, the general cultural capital right now is with the left. The left has right B again. Okay, well, we'll come back to that, I guess. The cultural capital is with the left right now, and so the right wing is mad about that to the extent that they have thoughts at all. But like, they tried to create their own parallel like Super Bowl halftime show. And of course it was ass and they like botted the views or whatever. And so they were really mad about like the anti-ICE messaging in the Super Bowl halftime show, and how like there was a generally left-wing vibe, a humanitarian vibe, right? Pro-human rights vibe. And they hated that because it signals how much they've lost their grip on control over the popular culture, you know? Like the right wing is relegated to trying to farm cultural capital from the likes of fucking Tom McDonald and Kid Rock. You know, like literally who? Type shit. Actually, I wonder if that B ranking actually negatively impacts my overall rank. It probably shouldn't, because these are custom tracked. Oops. Yeah, the swing is swinging hard. Like, the pendulum is swinging back to the left really hard. You know? Like, the where the cultural capital is affects how normies think. And that's super important for the politics of a country. It determines, like, which... It can have a very large hand in determining which groups of people remain repressed and which ones don't. And that sort of thing. That was crazy blue shell dodge. It's cute how we were threatening the U.S. with our trade bazooka when the U.S. could hit us back harder. Felt like a puppy barking at the bulldog standing on the other side of the glass. Here's the thing. If Europe was a unified bloc and decided, okay, we're going to cut trade relations with the United States, that would actually be a huge hit to the United States. Because those are trade connections that America can't get back. You know? It just requires a certain degree of committal to the bit, which Europe, like, isn't really willing to do, because the capital class that controls America is the same capital class that controls Europe. But all the same, they are doing the thing that I would consider advisable, which is they're trying to pursue closer trade relations with China. You know? Because it's like, oh yeah, China's, like, obviously a much more reliable trade partner and that sort of stuff. Yes, Gotron, I have seen that, where, like, the Democratic Party line, like, the party line with regards to ICE funding and stuff, is like, oh yeah, haha, we can train them, guys. Low-key, the next president cannot be a liberal. That's what I'm saying. That's why, legitimately, if, like, Gavin Newsom or somebody like that is the candidate in 2028, I'm going to vote for the Republican. Even though the Republican wants to kill me more, like, badly than the Democrat would. Like, the Democrat would have a pacifying effect, which this country cannot afford. We need, like, if the choice is between two politicians that I hate, it needs to be the more detestable of the two to activate people and, like, convince them to do something, right? So, like, Gavin Newsom gives, you know, transphobic, sleazy car salesman, but, like, even still, him being a Democrat and just being perceived as more competent has a pacifying effect, which would put this country further into the throes of economic collapse. You know, fundamentally, he wouldn't be that much different from J.D. Vance, except for the fact that he would inhibit action from the left more effectively, you know? Basically, what I'm saying is J.D. Vance, or whoever the Republican is, would be an easier target to organize against than a Democrat. And that's the sort of decision there. But that's only the liberal politicians that have been like that. You know, a lot of regular garden variety liberals are like, yeah, abolish ICE and hold the second Nuremberg trials or some shit like that. I guess the third Nuremberg trials. How? I swear the timing isn't the same as it used to be. Be lying if I didn't admit I laughed when Maloney was talking about Europe threatening America. Say, what will we do? Raid the closest McDonald's? No, I mean, states have the authority to just seize those, right? Like American businesses. Cutting trade ties with another country is more complicated than just raiding the McDonald's, right? Raiding the businesses that, like, that country owns. Sure, it could involve nationalizing those businesses. And it'd be fucking hilarious to see the McDonald's franchises of Europe being owned by the respective European countries, right? Like every McDonald's in the Netherlands is actually owned by the Dutch government. Every McDonald's in Italy is actually owned by the Italian government. But at the same time, what that has the effect of doing is locking the US in a way out of getting a sort of profit flow from doing trade with Europe. I keep making that mistake. McOrange and NL. Many such cases. Oh, is it McOrange? It's not McDonald's? Oh, I see. No, okay. It would be McDonald's. It's just a funny joke, haha. Yeah, no, that like cutting trade relations would involve tariffs. It basically like it would involve the cessation of goods cycling back and forth. You know? Which would hurt America. Don't make no two ways about it. It would hurt America. It would also hurt Europe, but Europe has recourse in the form of like, okay, if we plan this out, if we build trade relationships with China, and maybe even Iran or whatever, and like basically really, really commit to undermining American economic interests, they can do that. It's quite feasible, actually. You know, and I bet the people of Europe would be all for it too. You know, this would not be the first time that a large block of countries experience economic hardship. This would be far from the worst economic hardship that Europe would have experienced. But this would be by far and away the worst economic hardship that America has experienced ever, because it's like the biggest possible fall from grace. You know, it's the highest position from which to fall from. It represents that much larger of a fall. You know, de-dollarization means America doesn't enjoy the status of the global reserve currency any longer, which effectively evaporates all of American economic leverage. You know? Or at least a very, very large chunk of it. Yes, Kale the Furry. 1v3 NL is Dutch. That's what the NL stands for. Shouldn't have thrown away that mushroom. Hopefully somebody hits that, one of the CPUs, that'd be nice, but it's possible it won't happen. Probably have way more Trump haters than Americans do. You'd be surprised. Like, a lot of countries in Europe are much more pro-Trump than even America is. Maybe not Western Europe, though. Less passionate, but since he's not our president from our countries, to most Europeans, he just seems kind of dumb. Yeah, America, like, again, part and parcel to liberal democracy not being real democracy, people don't fucking like our president, you know? Like, Trump was elected with a majority of the vote, but consider how little of the voting population in America actually goes and votes in elections, right? Partly because they're just not interested, partly because it's actually kind of difficult to vote in America. Like, voting takes place on a work day. It's on a Tuesday. People have to go to work that day. You don't get off that day. The lines at polling places are very long. Oftentimes, Republicans have historically been very anti-voting rights, so they will oftentimes, like where they have local or regional power, they'll straight up close polling places so that people can't vote. Like, there is mass voter disenfranchisement that happens in America to prevent people from voting, which results in vote totals that seem unnaturally skewed towards Republicans. You know? But with the way things are going nowadays, and like, I would actually favor a lot of these, some of these methods of voter disenfranchisement because they would disproportionately impact Republicans. And if the country already isn't fully democratic, I would rather move it in that direction by barring participation in society behind believing in society. You know? Yeah, gerrymandering too. That doesn't affect the presidential election, but it does affect elections at the state and federal level with the legislature, like the Congress and the Senate and whatnot. Which both parties do, if I'm not mistaken, but Republicans more. Yes, that is a correct assessment. But gerrymandering, I think, gerrymandering is a very important tool insofar as it exists in America, where the priority first and foremost is to gerrymander the fascists or like bar the fascists from power entirely. Liberals seem to be unwilling to use the judiciary and like law to that effect. But what they are willing to do at times is gerrymander, which, you know, sure, like anything that bars Hitler from getting power, like American Hitler from getting power, I'm all for it. And if that means drawing a funny squiggly shaped district so that his party has no chance of winning, then like, yeah, fuck it. You know? It's an available political tool, and if it is available, then it should be used. It shouldn't be available, but it is. So it'd be stupid not to use it. It's not, Gotron, it's not even playing by the rules. The rules permit gerrymandering. Liberals oftentimes will like voluntarily not gerrymander, which is insane. That another thing that contributes to my characterization of the Democratic Party as oftentimes just being controlled opposition. Like a lot of this is me drawing from the mass psychology of fascism. The people are conditioned in such a way by media narratives, by state narratives, by the owning class through all the channels that they have available to them. The people are conditioned to not be compatible with democracy. People are not ready for democracy. We have to lay the groundwork. Like, you have to realize this democracy is so fake and so pretend, we don't even have the groundwork set, the sociological groundwork set for a real democracy. We are already playing on an entirely undemocratic playing field, right? So we have to act accordingly. We have to use all the tools at our disposal to try to build an actual, like, democratic system. And the first priority is to, like, destroy the system that is very anti-democratic, and that can do things when that anti-democratic system is liberal democracy. That can lead to doing things that liberals don't like because it seems very anti-democratic, you know. Also, I think you need 2 mushrooms for that, but I've already done it, so whatever. That probably counted as me hitting off-road the gopher. God damn it. Couldn't see that banana. That shock was inevitable. Okay. Alright, what's the damage? Oh! Is it hard-coded to just be B rank? God dang it. I wanted to do this thing where I go through all the Retro Rewind Grand Prix cups and get 3 stars, but it might just literally not be possible to get 3 stars. See what's going on here. There you go, rank B, rank B. Where's the... okay. Oh, these don't have a rank on them either. Okay, interesting. Just grinding Mario Kart while spitting facts. Yeah, this seems like, unfortunately, it's not possible to get 3 stars on every cup. Yeah, 500cc is probably rough going. Do I want to change the parameters a little bit, maybe? Maybe I'll just get, like, perfect score on every cup. Maybe instead of 3 stars, because it seems like it's hard-coded to not give you higher than a B based on the attempts that I've done. Which I've only done a couple, but, like, you know, raced way too well to get anything less than, like, a star rating. Let's give this one a shot. I'm still gonna go through, like, this stream will be offline, at least. Maybe I'll do this cup, since we're about halfway through, and then the rest of the stream can be, like, online races and stuff. I don't intend to do 500. That's not my game here. Okay. Oh, got wheelie bumped. What else did I have here? There are a couple of things. I want to see the Iron Lung movie, but there's not really any... I mean, the closest movie theater to me is, like, quite a ways off. That would be showing Iron Lung. So I have to wait till it, like, realistically, I have to wait till it comes out on streaming services, which I'm perfectly content to do as long as nobody, you know, spoils it. I'm aware that I could probably pirate the movie, but I don't want to because Markiplier worked super hard on that, and like, you know, I want him to have the maximum possible reward for being on YouTube for this long. He's just a cool dude, you know? I want to reward the artistic spirit is the thing. And this is a rare opportunity to do that, I think. But, you know, whatever. It is what it is. Speaking of, like, political things that aren't necessarily part of the news cycle, one thing I'd been hearing about recently was this kid Clavicular. I say kid, I actually don't know if he's, like, how old he is. He might be my age, but I have a sneaking suspicion that he's a bit younger than me. Not that that matters all that much. He's like... Well, what he is relevant to the thing that I want to talk about. He's a kick streamer. And he is, like, part of the a right-wing grift cycle, pretty transparently so. Like, what did he do, even? He, like, did some Sieg Heiling bullshit. He went to this big old Nazi party with, like, at the club with fucking Nick Fuentes and was really afraid to talk to women or something. And he continues getting bodied online for being afraid to talk to women. He probably said, like, Heil Hitler at some point or something like that. I don't know. By the time I had heard about him, he was already, like, at the end of his right-wing grift life cycle, which is kind of what I want to talk about. It seems like the right wing as a political movement has been imploding on itself and continues to do so. But, I think that's, like, is important to talk about, right? Because right-wing movements are not sustainable. They can't survive. They can't do anything. Because they're not real political movements. It used to be that, this right-wing grift cycle has existed for a long time, right? But it used to be much, much longer. Think about the kinds of right-wing figures that were around in the early 2000s. Tucker Carlson, Glenn Beck. These were people who carried on that grift for decades, right? Like right-wing talk radio or Fox News punditry, right? This is the, like, turn of the 21st century version of the grift that you could do for 20 years or more and like walk away with, like, a pension and retirement plan and all like that type of shit. And ever since then, it's been getting short. Like, the right-wing grift cycle, where these grifters remain relevant, is getting continually shorter and shorter. Andrew Tate was around for a few years, right? And then he fell off hard because, El Bozo convicted of sex crimes and such. And then Clavicular, I feel like, was only relevant for a couple of months. Nick Fuentes has a contrarian streak, which has been kind of keeping his career afloat. But, like, Andrew Tate only lasted a couple of years. A lot of the Daily Wire people only lasted a few years. The 15 minutes of fame for the right-wing grift cycle is actually boiling down closer and closer to literally 15 minutes. Like, it's just the right-wing grift cycle. It's like these people are so semi-sapient that their attention can only be held for a few minutes at a time. And I think that actually contributes, to bring it back to some stuff that I was talking about earlier, I think that actually contributes to how much cultural capital has left the hands of the right. Gamergate, I mentioned earlier, was only really feasible, and looking back on it, was only feasible really because of these quasi-personalities having any degree of staying power. Even a lot of the grifters from Gamergate were around for several years, enough to form a cultural impact, right? Yeah, maybe we can. That's the thing. It is, like, getting closer and closer to zero because the movement, the right-wing movement, MAGA or, like, modern neo-Nazism, it's burning itself out. Like, the people power to sustain such a political current just isn't there. Especially given that it's like a grift cycle. Lately, the right-wing has been increasingly defined by the politics of grift, the politics of not believing in anything at all. It used to be, there were eras of history where the right wing had much more cultural capital than it does right now, or even than it did in the Gamergate days. And the reason that such a thing was possible is because people on the right, as evil as they were, used to actually believe stuff. But now, your average right-wing grifter abandons whatever they believe the moment it becomes cringe. Either that or they get abandoned and they see, like, okay, it's probably the appropriate time to, like, hop off the gravy train, take my bag, and just get out of here and fade into irrelevance with my money. you know? How much of this is like wish casting? I don't know. I feel like my analysis is decently well informed here. Hard to say for sure, but you know, it is what it is. Oh, okay. Anywho. Yeah, I guess the point there is just like, I mean, a lot of times it seems like the topics I talk about are intertwined enough to the point that it feels almost like I'm creating a political theory of everything, right? Which is not my intent with this. My intent is just to apply a consistent framework of analysis. But like, hopefully the point I can drive home here with talking about the right-wing grift cycle is that that's kind of the method by which cultural capital is leaving the right and settling on the left. It's cool to believe in shit, right? Like the dynamic socially for normies has always been what's cool versus what's not cool, what's like based versus cringe, and that sort of shit. And for a while, the right kind of pioneered the being edgy, which a lot of people on the left rightly critiqued as being like all edge, no point. But there was like a perceived coolness to being the edgy online warrior for civilization, whatever. Now a lot of these people are just fucking pathetic. Like they've always been pretty pathetic, but there was like there was an affect, a desirable sort of affect to it that is not there anymore. Especially because that pipeline has kind of wound down to its conclusion, and everybody knows how unfuckable these right-wing losers are. And at the end of the day, a lot of it is about people want to score some tail. You know? Yay! Welcome to Retro WFC. Let's round it off with some online races. Go Bowser Jr. because I haven't done that yet in this latest round of streams, and I like Hammer Bro. Bros in Antarctica? That's crazy. Maybe he's bouncing all over the place. This track has always been a little bit harsh on the eyes, I think. I wonder if it has something to do with trying to port textures from Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe, which is like an HD game, into a game that runs at 720p natively, or something like that. I don't know. Also, at the end of the stream, I think there's something I want to do to adjust the proportions of the screen on like the overlay. So don't let me forget that. I guess here I can talk about the one thing that I have a link for, right? Like all that stuff that I just talked about was politics. It's relevant to the direction that countries end up going in outside of just elections and the news cycle. But here we have something that's actually part of the news cycle. The American blockade of Cuba continues, and it's getting so bad that there are now power outages and food shortages, which, you know, conditions were strenuous before, but never this bad. Particularly the reason for this, the cause of this particular dire strait of this embargo, this blockade, is because it's like an oil blockade or an energy blockade. They can't, like, doesn't matter how much humanitarian aid they have on hand in terms of material, they need energy to be able to distribute it or run any of that infrastructure. And honestly, there's no real reason to do this if you aren't considering the psychological, like the psychosexual at play here. Like, Marco Rubio has had it in for Cuba for hella long. Like, legitimately, I think this is, like, politically, this is the administration acting on a vendetta that Marco Rubio's had for a long time. Like, more than anything, really. Is that a shortcut? I don't know what that is. Oh, well, isn't that convenient for me? I don't know what exactly is going on here. Oh, it's those Goombas. That's the, like, shortcut thing. Okay, I see. So this is the route that he took down here. Nice. Got him. 7 players. You'll love to see it. Let me try to get some details from this article. Oil blockade is causing a severe energy crisis in Cuba. That's no good. As the government's been forced to ration fuel and cut electricity for many hours a day, paralyzing life in the communist ruled island nation of 11 million. Bus stops are empty, families are turning to wood and coal for cooking, living through near constant power outages amid an economic crisis worsened by the Trump admin's steps in recent weeks. Let's see, the government's imposed emergency measures. Why has the U.S. blocked oil to Cuba? Decades of strict U.S. sanctions against Cuba, the largest island nation in the Caribbean, have destroyed its economy. We know that much. They don't actually say, oh, okay. They do say, this is just part of the Monroe Doctrine. According to Al Jazeera's analysis, it's like, oh yeah, the Trump administration wants to control the Western Hemisphere. I guess that fits with Marco Rubio's vision of, like, the new American century and that type of shit, right? But ultimately, a lot of this does also come down to Marco Rubio's hate boner for Cuba specifically, because he is a Gusano. He's a Cuban American who fucking hates the left, you know? Whew. Okay. There's not much for me to say other than that. Like, you can go, see you later. See ya. That, like, this is obviously, this is the worst it's ever been, and this is a huge point of vindication for the fucking, like, lift the embargo and the sanctions against Cuba crowd, right? Like, it's not like a North Korea type of scenario where they are isolationist by choice. It requires a very, very weird and specific like set of circumstances to make that work. No, this is like purely vendetta on the part of America. Like, this was imposed, and it's been imposed. Honestly, it's very impressive that Cuba's been able to weather these sanctions for as long as they have, but it seems to be at a breaking point. There is, you know that this is the breaking point when it's a food and energy crisis at the same time. Things are getting really desperate over there, and unfortunately what I see happening is like Cuba's government buckling. You know, there's not much recourse other than that. Like, Europe is, as much as Europe has signaled that they don't like what the United States is doing, they're still ultimately compromised by the same interest that America is, you know? Oh, fucked it up. It's a good POW, though. That POW could have gotten me first place if I made the shortcut, but I didn't, so it didn't. Looks like it's something that's just not going to be able to survive. Trump told reporters last month it's a failed nation. Yeah, and that's the US did that. That's bad. That's not fucking good. Jeez. According to Kepler Data Company, by January 30th, Cuba was left with oil enough to last only 15 to 20 days at current levels of demand. Jesus. What has the UN said? Probably nothing. We're extremely concerned. That's it? That's it. Wow, great. Thank you, UN. The fucking League of Nations ass organization. If it were a real internationalist organization, what it would do is immediately order that every country lift the blockade of Cuba because people are fucking starving over there. Specifically the energy blockade. And then, like, have the United States fucking the leadership, like, all prosecuted for violating international law by using starvation as a tool of war. Nope. That's obviously not good. Okay, so that one section where I always fly off the course seems like it is a, almost like that one part of another track, CTR Cortex Castle, where what you're supposed to do is sort of drift into it, have a mini turbo, and that was close, and like release the mini turbo to get some air. Well, there go my green shells. I'm just gonna hold this red shell. You can keep holding that banana. I'm gonna hold this red shell. I do not want to threaten your position. Yeah, okay, that is what you're supposed to do. Okay. That's a really good race. I think I played that really well. Fuck you, random solicitation bot. What? They've taken to posting that twice now. Like, fucking... I don't know what these, spam bots are on that they think this works. Like, why? Like, I'll just keep banning them. But, like, jeez, man. Another thing that came to mind recently, it's kind of related to the whole conservative politics being defined by the grift cycle, that grift cycle shortening, and ultimately the right wing being defined by a lack of belief in anything. I'm sure people have seen like the Penguin video where the Trump administration straight up aura farmed off of a penguin that waddled away from its herd and like killed itself. Like straight up aura farming, like, yeah, we're a suicide pact. We're a political suicide pact. You know, we don't have any positive aspirations for the future. You know, we don't believe in the future as a political concept, right? Kind of related to that, because the right wing doesn't believe in anything, and especially because the right wing is where the interests of capital lie, they don't have activists. It took me a weirdly long time to realize this, but, you know, I'm sure people know about, like, oh yeah, there's all sorts of activist orgs, sometimes with fraught history, sometimes not, with like varying degrees of success in whatever their mission is on the left, right? There are plenty of left-wing activist orgs who want to do like humanitarian work and that sort of thing. There are even liberal activist orgs that are interested in a particular issue, but not necessarily in any sort of systemic critique or broader reform. Conservative activism is not a real thing. Give me this. Ah, mushrooms. I see. I am going to hold second place. What the fuck? How do you get the bullet to maneuver like that? I was up against the wall and the bullet fucking swerved to hit me. That was nuts. Give me the shock. Or 3 mushrooms. Oh, right. There's 7 people, and I was in 6th. How did I not take the turn tight enough when the guy in front of me was on the flame runner? What? Insane. I have to use this here, I think. Okay, I think that was good use of that mushroom. Yay, 3rd. That's pretty good considering how disastrous that bullet bill was at the beginning of lap 2. Insane. But yeah, conservative activists don't exist. They kind of used to. Not really, but kind of, right? If anybody remembers, like, if anybody has heard of the, like, protect the children shit from the 70s and 80s, where it was, like, there was this concerned mom that, like, it was effectively the attempt for the right wing to counter the Stonewall protests, the Stonewall riots, like effectively the queer rights movement of the 70s and the 80s. The protect the children like rallies and whatnot was kind of the counter to that. Even that was largely astroturfed by like the right-wing political machine and those sorts of corporate interests, you know? But like even that doesn't really exist nowadays, where the right is like their public image is pretty uniquely toxic nowadays. And because of their, you know, like I said, because of their connections with capital, because of their lack of real belief in anything, they just don't have activists. It's like if there is somebody who is a political activist, they're on the left or they're a liberal, right? It's like they believe in a furthering of human rights or advancement of like workers' rights or whatever. Like there's some flaw in society that they want to fix, I guess, is kind of how like activism works. And activism necessarily is grassroots, you know? So as a result, you have a right wing that just doesn't have activists because there's no such thing as grassroots politics on the right wing. They're either like completely politically disengaged, or their political engagement is like completely contingent on like TPUSA or whatever large capital funded thing. And like, I think those are the main two things, right? Oh, and like to the extent that they have political prescriptions or whatever, they're like, their position is that flaws in society that need to be fixed are like fake and gay. They're not flaws in like things just are the way they are. Like there's such a level of disengagement both politically and intellectually from everything that conservatives are not capable of activism. To be an activist, there has to be some sort of flaw in the world that you view it necessary to fix. For conservatives, there is no such thing as like a flaw in the world because they don't fucking care. You know? And they're also too lazy to get off their asses. You know? Also, let the record show that I raced way better than everybody else in this room. Did the sand hop 3 for 3 and still got 6th place. I did the glitch 2 for 3 as well. I just got bumped on lap 3. Wrong place, wrong time type shit. Anyways, I raced that really well. I'm happy with that. Vote. What will I vote for? Daisy Cruiser. That's why they keep paying for grifters? Yeah, that is exactly why. It's like, in a way, it's very culturally American because it's like their concept of political engagement revolves around the consumption of media, the consumption of like very low common denominator media too. Yeah, also Blueberry M887. Welcome to the stream and thank you for the follow. I meant to call that out earlier, but you know, I forgot. Yeah. In order to be an activist, there has to be a political flaw in the structure of society that you're committed to fixing, right? Conservatives are incapable of that because they can't see the structures of society. They don't care. And to the extent that they do care, they don't want anything to be fixed. Yeah. I'll just use this here, I suppose. Catch up a little bit. Like, the closest thing that the right wing had to an activist was actually Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk. They were the only people that you could really consider ideologically motivated enough to be that kind of an analog on the right wing, and that they were also like out of power. Once you're in power, you kind of cease to be an activist, and you start being part of the structure. You're like integrated into that. But even still, Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro are like, in many ways, it's quite questionable the degree to which they believe what they ostensibly, believe, what they say they do. And even still, they're like quote-unquote activism, their political activity revolves around trying to prevent people from fixing the flaws in society. To them, it's almost like the activism is the flaw. You know, obviously Charlie Kirk wasn't grassroots. Ben Shapiro is definitely not grassroots. They are funded by, you know, capital, like Peter Thiel and all that. You know, Charlie Kirk at TPUSA and Ben Shapiro at the Daily Wire. But that, like, that's the closest they have, and even that only checks one of the boxes, maybe two. Plus 42 for 7th. You love to see it, I guess. And I guess that sort of plays into why the right wing is so defined by people like Clavicular, right? I didn't even know about this guy until he already became a lolcow. You know, by the time I heard about him, he had already, like, the brain rot around him was already that, like, oh, haha, he's just getting fucking cortisol spikes left and right because he doesn't know how to talk to women, you know? Broadly the case for anybody on the right. They don't know really how to talk to women or even other people in general, but yeah. Quite a phenomenon, I think. I feel like that presents kind of an opportunity too. Like, the lack of activism or political engagement on the right does actually, I think, pose something of an opportunity to the left, because the only barriers that really remain are routine and institutional to things that the left wants to do, right? Which are barriers that have always been there. But now that's like, I don't know how much people have noticed this, but in their being divorced from reality almost completely, the right wing has sort of lost the passion to actually care about anything that the left wants to do, right? Any seeming sentiment that comes from them is like, by and large, a psyop, right? And a lot of times they don't even bother with that. It's like the owning class has successfully sort of engineered in the right wing a state of total, like, almost total complacency and apathy, but they can't really do the same thing for the left. So it's like they've accidentally engineered their main weapon of political opposition to the left, in a way. You know, I don't think that is, like, all-encompassing, right? But I don't know. What I think I'm getting at, to use an example to illustrate my point, is imagine you're in somewhere like California, where notoriously the housing situation is fucking awful, right? And you are a leftist or liberal activist who wants to build more affordable housing, right? You want to build apartments, you want to densify and urbanize Los Angeles. Previously, there would be, like, the forces that are opposing you in that instance would be the sort of institutional opposition from private companies and from the city government and whatever. And the other front of opposition to affordable housing would come from homeowners, right? A lot of those homeowners are liberals. And there's a distinct lack of that sort of regular person opposition, where it's people who really care about the community, but care about it in the wrong direction, who will oppose good things that activists are attempting to do in the local community, right? It's like it's almost like, in most cases, the only barrier is apathy. You know? And all that, I think, is the product of, like, an enormous amount of political and social engineering to put the right wing in such a state where they're no longer a moral agent on the world. Not really, anyways. You know? That apathy and like human cattle brain state almost has sort of relegated the right wing out of cultural relevance. It's like they're incapable, because of how stupid they've been propagandized to be, they're incapable of creating, engaging with, or influencing culture in the way that they used to be. Again, not to say that they're completely out of the loop there, but it's like there's a set of changes that I've been picking up on to that effect, more or less. Oh, damn, this room is cracked? Everybody did the shortcut? That's nutty. Not supposed to trek on that. Okay, everybody died and I'm in second. Damn, first is way up there. Just gonna do this. Okay. Oh, that's actually a really good shock for me, because I'm gonna get big in time to do this. Wait, you can do that shortcut? That's insane. What's up? Sorry, they landed on the boost pad. They're fine, more or less. Huge. Okay. I didn't realize how close I was to the ledge there. They really got me, huh? Alright, how do we do this? Ow! What the fuck? Why'd you do that? I'm just gonna use this. Okay. Rip. That race was pretty bonkers. On a brighter note, there is one thing I wanted to bring up that was like actually kind of positive. That was nice news. Mamdani keeps posting them W's. And I'm curious to see what his like contemporary in the West, Katie Wilson, is up to as well. I wanna hope farm in my free time. But in addition to all the shit that Zoran Mamdani's been doing with childcare, he recently signed an executive order that puts additional restrictions on ICE operations in New York City. That, like, yeah, you can't enter New York City property, public property, like as ICE agents. You can't enter those without a judicial warrant, which puts an extra like amount of legal friction up against the administration. And I think it, like, a lot of the things that Zoran Mamdani is doing seem to be building up New York City as something that will stand the test of time in the face of America's collapse. Like, more and more I can sort of see the divide forming, that like, okay, America might like be on its like El Bozo shit, but New York is gonna be like that's eternal, baby. America is temporary, New York is forever type shit, right? Like that's what I feel like is going on here, and I think that's actually really smart. And it actually gets to a very actually invigorating ideological discussion and debate that's happening around Zoran Mamdani. That's like, it's the first time in decades that this kind of discourse has even had the opportunity to happen. The like real discourse and disagreement around strategizing from the perspective of socialist politicians and elected officials, right? The kind of thing that Rosa Luxemburg would be talking about in like the 19th century. But, you know, so few socialists have been elected in America that it's always been like, how do we even fucking get a foothold in power? And now the question has arisen that, like, what do we do with it? One of the elements of this discourse was like, oh yeah, how is Zoran Mamdani contributing? How can he contribute to a broader project of building socialism in America, right? It's like kind of a phrase that's kind of rote if you know the like what goes on in online socialist circles. But nonetheless, I think it relevant because socialism is supposed to be this like very, very large project that involves changing the system, surpassing the current system, and supplanting it with something that doesn't suffer from the same flaws and contradictions. And where some people like Hassan will fall on the side of like, I think Zoran Mamdani should be endorsing as many people as possible to try to build a nationwide socialist coalition to bolster that front. I think there's rare room for honest disagreement here. I actually think that the best thing that Zoran Mamdani can do to contribute to socialism and socialist movements and left-wing movements in the long run is to put all his focus and energy on New York City and like his immediate political surroundings to leave an FDR-esque imprint, to create a legacy so bulletproof, not even conservatives would attack it. Pay attention to this. Conservatives don't attack FDR. In fact, Donald Trump looks up to FDR because he views him as a great man, a powerful person. You know? If you as Zoran Mamdani, having overtly socialist politics, to the left even of FDR, build a legacy comparable to that of FDR, then like you effectively lay a very solid political groundwork for any and all socialists in the future who have similar aspirations towards like a welfare state and effectively de-alienating the economy and like you know, building a democratic welfare state and that sort of thing, and decommodifying a lot of the essential parts of life, right? Like I think through if Mamdani makes New York City fucking rivers of honey, socialist Islamic Republic paradise or type shit, I think that's the strongest possible contribution he could make to broader socialist movements, because that is a absolutely unimpeachable legacy. Get another star. That was sketchy as hell, but kind of worked. Kind of. I need to get out ahead of that guy who's in a star. Almost got hit by those green shells. 3 mushrooms. I'm almost positive a shock is going to happen. Let this guy pass. Ow. That was really good. I didn't get a box. That's unfortunate. Those 2 people just got bombed, so I'm good. Didn't get a box again. Man, I keep getting dogged on these races. The copium that I'm huffing for that is that some of these are not necessarily mock bike tracks, and frankly, I just don't know the tracks all that well. If I knew the tracks a little bit better, I'm sure I'd be racing better. And also, if they picked a mock bike track, obviously I'd be faring a lot better too. I think if memory serves, I did see another mock bike driver kind of floundering in the back of the pack along with me. So it's possible that was a part of it. Again, there I go saying copium. And I mean, I do that to try and get out ahead of the like, oh, haha, I'm just trying to make excuses for me losing. It's like, I don't know how I feel about people saying, oh, well, the copium in this instance is such and such, when really they're just trying to offer an explanation. Copium, I think, revolves around something that isn't possible for you to address in your driving if you were to race the same race again. Like if you were to do the same event again, right? Like me trying to break down what happened and why I didn't do that well, I don't think that's necessarily copium. Like, yeah, I got dogged. I don't think that... I think acknowledging that kind of precludes copium from the equation, but, you know, it is a thing that people say sometimes. It's like, to give an example of what I'm talking about, it's like when people play bad in, like, a fighting game, and they're like, yeah, I played really bad, and so I you know, got bodied. Hopefully it'll go better next time or whatever. And then people like call that copium. It's like, it's not copium. They said they played bad and like they lost because the other person played better than them. I don't think that's copium. What's that? What's a weird thing you remembered, Gotron? Whoa, okay. Get that out of here. Okay, made a lot of mistakes on that turn, which can probably contribute to me not getting very good placement if that does happen. This is also very not a catch-up track, I think. So, have to be careful here. You ever notice in society, if you don't act egotistical, they side-eye you? I think it's less you acting egotistical being the thing, and more you have to have some goddamn self-respect. Because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I thought that I was seeing the same thing in college. But no, the reality of what's happening there is people just don't like somebody who's self-debasing. As much as people might not want to admit this, you have to have a little bit of an ego. You have to have a decently high opinion of yourself to function well in society, and the part that people really aren't ready for is that's the way it fucking should be. You know? How do you think like all these incels get to the point where they're willing to just watch it all burn? You cannot have that sort of attitude if you have a high opinion of yourself. Like, you can't be willing to just burn it all down if you're like, yeah, I'm pretty cool, actually. I love getting out in the world and shit. You have to be so fucking spiteful, vengeful, self-loathing, and depressed to feel any of that. So I think you know, to rephrase it a little bit more charitably, you're probably just misreading what you perceive as egotism, but is actually just a basic level of confidence in yourself. And I think that if you don't have that basic level of self-confidence and you are, like, routinely self-debasing, I think the side-eye is warranted. You need to learn to respect yourself. Put some respect on that fucking name, you know? That goes for everybody watching. Put some respect on your name. It took me fucking 4 years to learn this lesson. You guys could learn it in fucking 10 minutes. If you wanted to. I will not, however, tell you to go to therapy because in America, therapy is very expensive. So, because that could tread into financial advice, and that would certainly not help things, but, you know. In any other country that actually has a real medical system, I will tell you to go to therapy. Because I think everybody needs therapy, to a certain extent. By and large, people just need social connections. on my Twilight Zone shit right now. And we can do all sorts of shit. We can emulate and fill all sorts of needs that people have with, like, the advancements of technology that we've developed. But the one thing that we can't fill is people's hunger for companionship. Man's hunger for companionship in the one Twilight Zone episode. Like, you need other people. Humans are social critters. Oh, okay. Clip that, somebody. Clip that shit. That was the most insane bump, and I also, like, just kept driving. That was honestly, that might be even crazier than getting bumped like that, is I just kept driving, like, didn't even hit a wall or nothing. I'm in fourth with no item. Certainly nothing bad will happen, Clueless. I'm gonna use this here. Yeah, I think that, as weird as it is, because that doesn't cut off as much ground, I think that puts me in the most stable possible position, having used the mushroom there and not, say, somewhere else. Okay, I'll just throw this. Yep. Ow. Had a feeling he was going to throw that. I get bulleted through no fault of my own. This one I will cope a little bit over. Be like, okay, a lot of this wasn't my fault. I've been driving decently well. I think a lot of position I'm in right now partly owes to the fact that I got behind kind of early on. I'm surprised I was able to get that star. Give me this box. The shock just happened, so it can't happen again. I need to use this now because that person is right on my ass. Okay, I got a item. Okay, this could be my opportunity. All right. All right. I do talk to people. They're pretty fun. Yeah. That bit about, like, talking to people wasn't meant for you specifically, because I know you know that already. That was meant for the general audiences. Rated G. This stream is rated G. No, it isn't. No, it fucking isn't. This stream is I actually don't know what this stream would be rated. If you put it to the rated G for gays, that's true. That is true. If we're inventing this new rating system, this is rated G for gays. No straights allowed? I'm just kidding. The straights are fine as long as they're watching and listening and giving me money. This will probably be the last race of the session. Oh, okay. Oh. Unfortunate. Collision with the wall there. Okay, hopefully I can turn this around just by driving decently well, not getting hit. Those are the two main priorities. I need to stop focusing so much on, like, what placement I'm in at any given point. Just need to worry about decisions I'm making. Okay. Okay, that's good. Okay. Awkward, but worked out, kind of. I'm gonna start using this here. Ooh. Kind of don't want to pass this guy with the red shells, but I might do so all the same. Try to hug the inside. Okay. right? This is going to be a try-hard race a little bit. Okay. Okay, don't get hit by that bomb car. I'm trying to stay even just in the middle of the pack. This is really difficult. That's unfortunate. I think if I just don't get hit, I might be in pretty good shape. That might be really difficult because of the because of this red shell. That other guy got hit too, though. Fourth. Okay. It paid off. Me not worrying about what position I was in, just trusting the plan worked out. Okay. Out of the Lamb have a baby that's 69 years old. Grogu mentioned. 50-year-old baby, 70-year-old baby, 69-year-old baby. That's crazy. No, the infamous online retro rewind crash. Look, it's okay. I think I've said this before, but I will put up with like a ton of bugs and glitches and crashes and whatever, because the core of retro rewind is you don't really need to be an expert at the tracks to play it and like be able to race with other people and stand a chance. You know? Kind of like how in politics, if you seem like you actually believe in your shit and want to make things better, I will forgive almost infinite fucking tactical mistakes and whatever. Anyways, that is it for the stream today. Who is live? Hassan, of course. Thank you for watching the stream. Hopefully next time I will continue with the Grand Prix Gauntlet. Try to beat every cup in Retro Rewind. Originally the plan was 3 stars, but it seems like that you can't get 3 stars. The highest you can get is like B ranking, maybe 8, I don't know. But yeah, I'll be back next time. Enjoy the Hasanabi broadcast.